So we're gonna just start with the adoption of the agenda. Any changes?
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to permit public comments to those who have not had the opportunity to share their thoughts with the board, or those who have not had, we've not received information from via email.
Second.
Okay, motion seconded. All in favor of adding public comments, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. We will add that in between section 3.1 and actually section 3.2, so that we can also get in and meet with our attorney while he's available. All right. Before we get started, I just have a little thing that I just wanted to read. Figure better read it than just try to go off the cuff. But before we get started, in the spirit of transparency, I just want to take a second and address many rumors that have been floating around in regards to the board. It's amazed me the number of people who claim to know what happened in our executive session last week and feel like they fully understand why we chose to delay our vote. I will own that delay. Last week, we as a board were inundated with many emails and phone calls, even right up until the last minute before the board. They came in on both sides, on support of the renewal and against the renewal. Some were expected, some were rather shocking. But in addition to the topic of the renewal, there was also confusion as whether or not edits to the contract could be, or that had been discussed in our January work session regarding future evaluation and dates needed to be decided prior to the vote, or if we would still have time to work on those edits after the March 1st deadline. Once again, I will take ownership for not thinking of those issues in advance and being more prepared for the meeting. So, sitting in an emotionally charged environment last week with some legal uncertainty, I did not feel like it was a good environment to make a serious decision. In my opinion, I felt that it was both prudent and responsible to ask for it to be tabled, and so that I and the board would have the opportunity to gather information that we needed to make the right decision. With that being said, I thank you all for coming out and being involved. Over the last week, we have read countless emails. We've had numerous conversations with individuals who have called us. A lot of people who've supported both sides of the issue. We've read the emails, we've seen the voices of support on the petition. And so like Greg said, I know some of you guys had an opportunity to share last week. And tonight, we also, during our session, we will welcome public comments. But we asked that when we get to that point, you limit your comments to 2 minutes per person, just because we see that there's a lot of people. And as we've mentioned in previous meetings, I ask that you please keep your comments to be respectful and please avoid any personal attacks. Okay? With that being said, I know it's not the most convenient thing in the world, but I will ask that you guys exit so that we can have our consult with our attorney. And enter into executive session. We'll keep it as brief as we can. I would anticipate that it's not going to be real long, and then we'll invite you guys in for public comments, and then we will go back into executive session to meet with Director Weaver. Okay? Thank you. All right. So we'll enter into a time of public comment. Like I said, we're going to limit it to 2 minutes per speaker. Yeah. So we have Megan Tippett to start things off.
Indulge me, I wrote myself some quick notes and I'm just going to read them.
No worries.
In a moment.
I get you.
So, we find ourselves tonight at a difficult crossroads. None of us can fully know the intent and motives of those sitting next to us. We have to find a way to truly hear each other, even when we sit across the ideological divide. Transparency builds trust. We ask teachers for full transparency. You can come in our classroom anytime. You know what we're teaching. You know how we're teaching it. We ask the board to embrace this and consider, moving forward, how to invite all stakeholders further into the process of healthy debate and discussion. Director Weaver is often in a difficult position between all stakeholders and high emotion situations. I don't envy her. I do absolutely admire her for maintaining dignity and respect throughout these conversations. I have been in many meetings with Director Weaver and have learned through her example how to consider diverse perspectives and find common ground. All of us could embrace this moving forward. I strongly support renewing her contract in an effort to continue building our school community as a place of inclusion, professionalism, and respect.
Trustee Malnati?
Hi, I'm Christy Malnati, and I taught here at university schools, even before it was university schools, for 40 years. Ryan was a student, Greg was my boss. Michael Mazzarano was not a student of mine, but he was in the hallways a lot. And Mike, Carol just said something about, everybody here's so young. I said, yeah, but where did Mike get the white in his beard? My husband too. Anyway, I had 3 children who went to this school. They had a great experience. And we had many different directors. And, you know, we had trust. And that was probably the most important thing. I sent Greg a note because I didn't think we had a chance for public comment. And so I just said what I wanted to say to Greg. And I trust Greg explicitly, did when we worked together, when he was faculty, he was principal, he was director. And Greg went ahead and sent it to Ryan, to whom I hadn't sent it. And Ryan sent me an email and said, I sent it to the board. So I don't really have a whole lot more to say to you other than what you've already seen. But I have 3 very successful children who graduated here, went off to do their things. One is working at the Pentagon, went to the Naval Academy. One is a social studies history teacher in the Chicago area. And one is a teacher in Denver about to become a therapist for adolescents. And we know adolescent therapy is really important today. Anyway, I'm proud of them. I'm proud of the service I gave to this school for 40 years. And I believe that people need to have an open mind, because a mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's open. And so we have to have an open mind when it comes to selection of materials and how we go about discussing things with one another and supporting our teachers, our students, and our administration. Thank you.
Right. I think that may have been all that initially checked their names, but I know Dave said that there may be a few others that would like to speak.
I didn't see the check mark.
That's okay.
My name's Carol Riggs, and some of you know me, some of you don't. But I too was a teacher here. I retired as a elementary master teacher. I had 2 children who went K-12, and I feel they're very successful. I think it's important that I know what the bylaws say, but that I wrote some things down. I never worked under Director Weaver, but my interactions with her have been professional, high standard, and what I think is an important skill is that she understands the educational process and how do we educate kids, but we also watch for their well-being. And I think that's something that the lab school and university schools has already been very, very strong with, that total child. And I think we need to keep that. Being a leader is tough, and you have to make some hard decisions, and not everybody's going to agree with those decisions. But that's the kind of leader you need. And I think Director Weaver has shown that. I think we need to look at the integrity of you as a board, this as a school, and not to do anything to jeopardize that in our immediate community and the outreach community if you were to do something rash or harsh. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, anyone else change their mind and would like to share this for a few minutes? seeing none, we'll close public discussion and well, once again, ask for you guys, we should have brought couches and chairs. Ask for you guys to head out of the hallway for us to enter into executive session. We'll move back into session. Item 2.1, renewal for the director's contract. I'll entertain a motion.
I will make the motion to renew the contract.
Second.
With
Okay.
with amendments, yes.
Second.
All right, so Eric motions and Thomas seconds. We will be doing a roll call vote, so yes in favor of renewing the contract with amendments, and no would be against that. So Jake Daggett,
Yes.
Eric Fitzsimons,
Yes.
Justin Nelson,
Yes.
Jake Pierce,
Yes.
Greg Pearson,
Yes.
Thomas Roach,
Yes.
Stephanie Welly,
Yes.
Tina Whitcomb,
Yes.
and myself, I will vote yes as well. So, the motion passes unanimously for the renewal of the director's contracts amendments. And with that, once again, I just want to thank everybody for attending. I know that it's been a rough week for a lot of people. I think, as we just discussed in our executive session a little bit, our school has gone through a lot of changes. We have a very rich and a very wealthy history of just some amazing things and a lot of greatness. And we've hit this point where, like I referred to in the executive session, is we've sort of crested that honeymoon period where we were university schools for over 100 years. How we were governed and dictated there was completely different than what happened when we moved over here to the charter school. As a charter, we had to learn how to self-govern, which is not an easy task. And there's parts of that process that that weren't closed up. There's parts that are still not real great and not real clear as far as how governance goes. And and like we discussed, we don't have a strong strategic plan to guide us. And so we've sort of ridden off of the laurels of university schools for so long, and then there's a lot that's happened in the last 3 to 5 years. We've hit COVID, we've hit things, and I think just the climate of the world has changed. And with that, here we are. We're having to recognize that those changes are real, and there's a lot of things that we can't continue on the way that they've been done. We need to become that school of innovation again, where we can innovate and show our kids that we can be different. And I think when I say be different, it's that we can be different than the public, where we don't fight about everything, but we come together and we can learn how to have those hard discussions, and we can collaborate, and we can sometimes have to compromise a little bit, but we need to come to a consensus at times to move things forward. And so I will continue to pledge to do my best as far as transparency and openness. And I think we ask for you guys to commit and us to commit to reforging those bonds of unity and really doing the hard work over the next couple of years to create some of those things that we're missing, to help us to create plans and futures and goals and things that just have never been in existence since we've been in charter schools. So I want to tell you all that I appreciate you guys all. I appreciate all the emails, no matter how many hours I spent late at night reading them, and everybody else. But it shows that there's a level of commitment. It shows that there's a level of passion, and people are concerned. And for all of you guys to be out here, it shows that from you guys. And so I appreciate that. And so, like I said, on behalf of the board, we're pledging our best efforts to Jennifer as our director going forward, to continue to work collaboratively to help to guide and direct the school. So at the end of the day, ultimately, we can look back and say we are the best school that we can be for our kids. So thank you guys so much for coming. And
can you explain what the amendments are? A couple people say that. I don't want them to think that's it.
so the amendments, once again, so that was part of what we need to discuss with our attorney as far as how those, what the timeline for those are. There'll be some amendments that we have to discuss. We don't have them all nailed out, but they will outline, once again, the evaluation process, how things are going to look, if there's any changes in dates and schedules. as far as when certain things, if you're not aware, Jennifer's contract does have very, very specific dates. So March 1st is the specific date saying we have to let her know about the renewal by March 1st. It's changed 2 or 3 times since she's been here already, and it keeps shifting, and once again, we're just trying to create, with her collaboration, what is the most useful time frame that we can help her with evaluations that are actually workable and they're actually usable, instead of just these arbitrary dates that exist in the contract. So the amendments are gonna be surrounded primarily with evaluation, which is both our commitment to her and her commitment to us, as well as timeframes and stuff like that. So not like an overhaul of the contract or anything, but just more or less the specifics of dates and procedures. Any other communication from the board? Okay, with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Second,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion adjourned.